You're listening to episode 789 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled, Do You Know His Voice? Given on the fourth Sunday in Easter, 2023. Some of you may know that I have a dog, right? Do you know the name of the dog? Snickers, right? Yeah. Kind of like from Schnickerdoodle. He's a schnoodle. And I can't just say doodle because that's what I use for a command for, let's say, the going out. So Snickers it is. So when I got Snickers, he was without any training. Without any training, okay? So I had to work with that. That means I had to teach him how to come right here, to sit, to lay down, which was tough, and to stay. That was also tough. And then the command word that is to release the dog, and that's okay. So at the end of the Mass, if I say, the Mass has ended, okay, you're free to go. He then knows his name now, but he really only obeys me, right? Because he knows his shepherd, right? He's attuned to my voice. And sometimes I'll walk into the office. Many people come into the office. After a while, he kind of gets tired. He'll be sitting in one of the offices. He won't come out. But if I go there and he hears my voice, he'll come bolting out of that office. Yesterday, I was with a couple for pre-marriage preparation. My dog was asleep, and I happened to mention his name, and boop, he came right out of his sleep and came right over. Pretty good, huh? Except when there's another dog around. Or squirrel. Right? After that, forget it. He's not listening to me. He's not listening to anybody else. He could be in the car, and he's like, look, I chain him down in the car. I have a little leash so that he doesn't go flying. But boy, oh boy, he fights against that because he wants to go to that dog or squirrel or whatever it is, right? I think somehow we're like that. As Christians, we've been tuned to the voice of God, but sometimes something entices us, something sparkly, something that we think will be good for us, and we forget about God and we go do something else. But God has never and never does stop talking to us. He is calling every one of us. Now you might say, how is that? I'm glad you asked. So let me give you some thoughts. This is how God has spoken through me. You may have similar or different experiences. Your mileage may vary. Okay? So for me, when and where? Well, I've had in my life an experience where I've been praying and I literally heard a voice. That's really rare. And in fact, it kind of freaked me out. I'm like, what? Whoa, what's going on here? My dog doesn't know how to talk. There was nobody in the house. And it was exactly what I needed to hear. In my case, it'll be another story later, it wasn't always like a friendly thought. It was like, get your act together kind of thing. So you may have heard God speak to you literally in a voice. But more commonly, when you're praying, as I might be praying, I might hear in this like a silent voice, and it's my own voice, right? But it's something that I've never thought about. It's clearly not any thought I would have ever had, and it is important for this moment. Or it's something that will inspire me to do something. I'm like, okay, and then I'll go do that. I might hear the voice of someone who I trust, someone who's a really faithful Catholic, someone who's, really rooted in their faith, and I'll listen to them. And that might be also where that's something I need to hear. God can work through that. Or maybe it's some music I listen to, or a movie or a television program I might watch. I'm always listening. What is God trying to say through these things? He can work through almost anything. Sometimes as I walk up into a space where there's some need, someone's in need, and I feel compelled, like a voice, not actually in my head, but like a sense of, I need to do this. God is compelling me, I need to do something. And then there's the more difficult ones, like that person that I don't like, maybe an enemy, and yet they may say something, and I need to listen to that. Something they said just kind of cuts me to the bone. I'm like, this is the last person I want to hear this from, but it is the truth I need to hear. What is a little more easy is when that random person comes across my life and they say something completely unwittingly, and I'm like, oh, and it just strikes me like, okay, God, thank you for that word. Thank you for that word. Now, bottom line, God is calling all of us, and he uses the method that is for us based on who he's created us to be. So, like I said, your mileage may vary because you're built differently. God has made you differently, and he speaks through your way of being able to receive him. But often, even though that may be the case, we're not yet tuned well enough to quite hear it. So think of our lives, our souls, as like a radio. And God is on a channel, but are we on that same channel? So we might like roll around in the knob. Remember the radios with knobs? I know that's an old image, I know. So, but then you got to get to that station, and you get closer, and you kind of start hearing it, and then you nail it, right? And you're like, yes. So how can we do that with our life? So here's some thoughts, some more thoughts. Number one, go to Mass weekly. So we might say, I go to Mass regularly, like, once a month. No. Weekly. And if you're going and you're streaming Mass, for those who are streaming, I want to invite you to come in person, because honestly, it's more potent here. It is qualitatively more profound to be in the presence of the community and Jesus here than anywhere else watching on television. I can tell you before I came, I watched on video. I saw you all on video before I came. And I watched and scanned and, critiqued the choir. And you're pretty good. But they're way even better live, right? I mean, there's some things just have to be done live. Yeah. So come to Mass. Give yourself in some ministry. If you're like, I'm not sure I'm really gathering what God is saying to me, like, what are you doing that you're not involving God? So do something with God. And one great way is here at the parish. There's lots of things you can do, but it may be somewhere else too. How about make an effort to reach out to someone in need? It will tune you to the needs of others, and God works through the poor. And when we see the needs of people, we often are compelled to do what God wants us to do. And when it comes to Mass, prioritize that before all else. I know there's sports and other things, but then instead make sports roam around the Mass, not the Mass roam around the sports. Pray daily. That's probably an obvious one. But this one may be not so easy. Reduce the noise. There's lots of noise, lots of voices. Maybe turn off the radio in the car. Some people come home and they will turn on their television, not that they are actually going to be watching it, but it just creates a din of noise inside. How about turn it off? Oh, wait, that makes me uncomfortable. Yes, it does. And now you might be tuning yourself, not to the noise, but to the shepherd, right? One of the great retreats I go to, and this is another way you might want to tune your voice, is to go on a retreat, but I like to go on silent retreats. I'm an extrovert. Gather that, huh? Imagine being silent for an entire week. First day's tough, I must tell you. But afterwards, I'm like, I'm freed from all the noise. And I'm ready to listen. And then ultimately, whatever you're doing, whatever activity you're in, measure it in this way. Is this bringing me closer or further from the Lord? Making me closer or further away from the Lord? And based on that, you might want to fast from it or do it more. You may even want to get rid of it because it's not helping at all. Maybe the music you're listening to or the movies we're watching are not bringing us closer to the Lord, so maybe they just need to go somewhere else instead of in our eyes and our ears. But know this, God is always speaking to each one of us. He's made us for him, and he loves us. And his words are potent if we can hear them. And he can change your life. Think of all the saints who have heard them. Well, you're the saints here. So try these things. Maybe one or two of these ideas. See how they measure for you. And it can make you a stronger Christian. You'll be more willing and able to follow the Good Shepherd. And you know what that's going to do in our community? That's going to make us great sheep. And sheep help other sheep. And often we need help, not on our own, but we need help from other people, the community. And by then gearing ourselves up close to Jesus, we're not just helping ourselves, we're helping our community. There's so many people in need, and they may need you to be that person that hears them. And this is good for everyone. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bills Podcast. You can go to my website if you have any questions or comments. That's fatherbill.org. That's the website. And from there, you can actually write me an email, and it'll send it to me right through that main page. But also, you can check out other things. Like I have a blog. I just completed an entry for a bulletin, our parish. It's entitled A New Ciborium for Mass. We replaced a glass ciborium with a metal gold-colored ciborium. You can read about that, why we did that, and other things, other podcasts and other things going on. So go check that out. And if you have any questions, please just send them right along. You can go to my social media accounts like Facebook, etc., and that's an easy way to do it as well. In the meantime, may God bless you, and have a great week. Bye-bye.